Good evening, morning, afternoon, night, whenever you find it most convenient to join us at the Bonfire. You're definitely going to need to join us because the weather outside is getting cold. It's getting cold. I'm already feeling a bit under the weather because of how cold it is getting. I took a nice walk outside, but it is definitely cold. I, as always, am Alan the Pole with a goal, and I'm joined by my lovely jubbly co-host, DJ.
I don't know what cold is.
Oh yeah, you live in.
I was gonna say you need to speak for yourself when we've got a guy in Florida on the pod.
Well, at least we know what cold is.
Cold, like when you walk into a Publix after you've been out for a couple hours, and how at night feels nice. Is that what you mean?
Nah.
Is that when I dip my toe in the water and it's not less than 75 degrees?
Yes, I guess. So we also got Tim as well.
Yeah, and I love that you went. You're feeling sick because you're cold and not it's your first year teaching, and like you're slowly building up to having an industrial strength immune system, but like that doesn't happen overnight.
No, well, I've been slowly getting used. I've been around kids and like teaching for a bit now. This isn't like my first. This is my first like solo rodeo, I guess. So enough about my teaching because this is a podcast about the Fire. And speaking of the Fire, we're gonna talk really quick about Fire 2. As mentioned, Fire 2 qualified for MLS Next Pro playoffs. They are set to face against Orlando on October 20th. So the day after the final first team game at Soldier Field, then very next day at 2 p.m. at Toyota Park. If I'm correct, the game is still going to be free. Parking should still be free. I don't think they're going to charge anything for either ticket or parking. So go ahead if you want to see some playoff soccer in Chicago in Toyota Park and SeatGeek Stadium. Also, the Chicago Red Stars have officially qualified for NWSL playoffs. So we'll be seeing two different types of Chicago soccer playoffs at the Geek, to say the least.
Yes, and NWSL playoffs, if I'm not mistaken, happen in early November. So that's going to be coming up in a little while.
Yes. Yeah. So we have a bit of playoff soccer happening in Chicago. It's just not the first team. Not yet. In other news, Brian Gutierrez and Chris Brady, they've both been named to the MLS 22 under 22, which is the top 22 players who are aged 22 and under. Guti was ranked 4th, and Brady was ranked 13th. So congratulations, of course, both to Guti and to Brady for making those rankings.
I'm pretty sure Guti was ranked 4th last year too, if I remember correctly.
I believe you may be right about that. I spoke to Andrew Weavy briefly about just like what his thoughts were in his votes for the rankings and stuff like that, because also on the 22 under 22 were Kevin Sullivan, who is very far under 22 because he's like 15 years old and has played 10 MLS minutes. And so like, obviously with these lists, a little bit of it is about potential and a little bit of a bit is like, what have you done? And like, obviously just showing up at a top pro game like Kevin did at 15 is one thing. Weeby's perspective was that his expectations go up as the age goes up. So because Chris Brady and Brian Gutierrez are, getting to the end of that under 22 part of their lives, it's about what they're actually doing on the pitch and not just about flashes of something that could happen or grow in the future. Yeah. So, that I think says something about like the growth of those players. I think that both of them kind of hit roadblocks this season, but like the team did not put on a showcase for anyone else. Mm-hmm. So I think we'll have to see hopefully real progress from them next year.
Yep. And of course, hopefully Chris Brady won't be added to the Yu-Gi-Oh card collection of Chelsea goalkeepers. Just like that. I'm joking, but seriously.
Hopefully.
Yeah. So, moving on. So we have some end of the year awards from MLS, and the Fire have 5 nominations for those awards. There's the Audi Goals Drive Progress Impact Award, which was formerly known as the MLS Humanitarian of the Year. And that nomination goes to Kellen Acosta. The last time a Fire player won was Matt Lampson back in 2016. You have goalkeeper of the year, so of course that is Chris Brady. The last Fire player that won that was John Bush all the way back in 2008. You have newcomer of the year, which goes to Hugo Kuipers. No Fire player has ever won this award. And then you also have young player of the year, formerly Rookie of the Year award. Both Chris Brady and Brian Gutierrez are nominated. Last time was Austin Berry in 2012. The odds of these players winning anything is a bit low, especially like newcomer of the year, because you have the Harlem Globetrotters of MLS, aka Inter Miami, most likely going to get some popularity votes, but maybe there's a chance that Kellen Acosta could win the humanitarian one or the drives progress.
Unfortunately, and also it's sort of funny because like a lot of the time when you rename awards, it's because it was something like Man of the Year and you want to be gender non-specific, like not in MLS, but just in general. And I love the idea that like it wasn't the corporate sponsorship that made them rename it, but like they wanted to make the award available to non-humans. So that like when an AI overlord wins it in a few years, they're like, yeah, we cleared the way for this years ago. We were ahead of the curve.
And the
thank you, AI overlord.
And the winner of the 3024 Impact Award goes to Megatron.
Airbud.
Airbud.
Airbud wins the Audi Goals Driving Progress Impact Award.
Love that. It's a mouthful. That Audi Goals Drive Progress Impact. That's a mouthful for an award, honestly.
Well, and the way that they write it too, I think in like it's like goals. With lots of O's.
Like because Audi has the 4 O's. Yeah. That's funny. Also, the Fire are one of 7 teams that did not nominate their head coach for Coach of the Year, alongside Atlanta, Austin, Dallas, Nashville, New England, and Sporting Kansas City. Apparently, San Jose have nominated their interim head coach for Coach of the Year. So, okay.
I don't have any inside info about this. My bet is that, I mean, obviously is more than 20 people nominated, right? Like nominating is very easy. Like the team writes a couple paragraphs and sends it in, and then you get to be on the ballot. I don't have any inside info on this. I suspect that Frank Klopas may have been involved in the discussion and just didn't want to focus on him with this more than anything else. And you know what? Sense. Like Ian Russell inherited a mess and he's still got a mess and he's still there. So like that deserves, I mean, hey, the least that your boss could do is write in a letter of recommendation for you in that case, right?
Yeah, I guess.
It's funny. What's funny is Frank Klopas actually finished 4th Coach of the Year 12 years ago, and now it's his last season. He's like, I don't want to go through this again.
Mm-hmm. So, one last sort of bit of news is that the Fire Academy has four players in the first U15 Youth National Team Camp cycle of the year, including
for the U.S. Men's Youth National Team. Yeah,
for the U.S. Youth National Team under 15s, 4 players, including goalkeeper Jason Nemo, midfielders Christopher Morales and Robert Turdin, and forwards Chato Cerda. So no other team has more than 2 players in camp. So right now, the Fire Academy and just the younger and the lower sides of the Fire teams are really doing well for themselves.
Yeah, it's a good sign for the future. And obviously, like, potential isn't, something you've done yet, but there's a ton of potential coming through the academy. The investment, the fact that the new performance center is opening, which will really drive, I think, interest in playing in the academy. I mean, it's all coming up Millhouse if the Fire are Millhouse.
Amen, I say to that. And then last but not least, we don't have anything really it's new or specific to talk about Greg Berhalter. But if you go over to meninred97.com, there's a bunch of articles coming out about our new head coach and director of football. one written by I'm pretty sure Alex wrote this one about players that Berhalter could possibly bring to the Fire, including one certain magician from Juventus.
I,
That-
for some strange reason, was about to say Cristiano Ronaldo. I completely forgot that he went to Al Ahly.
His Juve days were a while away.
Also, as far as I know, unless I really missed something with like a concussion and should probably go seek medical attention, I don't think Ronaldo ever played for the U.S. men's national team.
Listen, I am so tired right now. Okay,
His son technically could play for the U.S. national team, if I remember correctly. Like his son is technically U.S. eligible. I can't remember. I remember reading that somewhere. But he's of course eligible to play for Portugal. So I mean,
No, he'll be playing. They'll be playing in the 2038 World Cup along with Basti's kids in the U.S. men's national team.
Let's go, gamers. So yeah. So if you want to quench your thirst of Berhalter news, you can check those out. Those articles out on meninred97.com. We're gonna move on just for a little bit to talk about a game that happened a few weeks ago, a while ago. Like I've pretty much can't remember anything from this game, but we have our notes written down here. When the Fire took on Charlotte in Charlotte, when they lost in a fairly high scoring game of 4-3, which featured goals from Karol Świderski, Kellen Acosta, Tom Barlow, Junior Urso, Fabian Herbers, just a lot of goals.
Leo Labata, last goal.
Leo Labata, yes.
Yep.
Yes, he also scored. It was kind of back and forth, including when Tom Barlow scored in the 93rd minute. You'd think that maybe the Fire could pull off yet another sort of last-minute comeback miracle. Didn't happen. I mean, the Fire came into this game already eliminated, not much to play for. They were just playing for honor and for pride, essentially, for contracts maybe. So, yeah.
Yeah, and that's, I think, part of it. Like the loss is disappointing. Charlotte was the team that their win over the Fire last year more or less was them doing a kind of rude, like, excuse me, to make it into the playoffs at the expense of the Fire. So it would have been a great revenge match. Didn't work out that way. 4-3 is not a bad score. Lots of goals.
Entertaining, to say the least.
Yeah, I mean, for a game with 7 goals, I will say it was as unentertaining as I think it could be, but it still was a game with 7 goals. So, like, if that's your thing, then that's cool. But it was good to see guys like Kellen Acosta get on the score sheet again. I think that it's his first goal since like late May or whenever that was against DC. Fabian Herbers like went on that heater at the beginning of the season. It has to be his first goal since like, I don't know, like
July, I think.
Did he? Yeah, because he scored. Did he score in July? I don't think he did. I think it's his first goal since like March. I can't remember him scoring. See, this is how you know that we're really professionals, that we know these things off the top of our heads. March 9th against Columbus, I think, was his last goal of the season.
Yes, he's got 3 goals. I was thinking of last season, I think.
Yeah. They've all kind of meshed into one. And that's, I think, the point about all this is the season has been painful. It has been a slog, I think, for people.
It's been a season, essentially.
It's 33 games of soccer that have happened, and there is one more game to go.
Amen, I say.
And then we can hopefully look back on the season as the start of something beautiful.
Pretty much, sort of like the I was gonna say the calm before the storm, but this wasn't calm. I guess.
The L before the storm, that old metaphor.
Yeah. But speaking of one last game, Nashville is our last game of the season. It is MLS decision day. So as usual, all the games start at the exact same time, which is why the Fire are going to kick off against Nashville at 5 p.m. instead of the usual 7:30 p.m. Central. So make sure you get to Soldier Field a bit earlier than usual. Nashville
2.5 hours earlier, actually. If you want to keep your
2.5 hours earlier. So there will be we'll be seeing, I think, the sun set at least by that point, rather than usually the sun's already gone by the time the game kicks off, or is like mostly, I don't know. So Nashville are formally eliminated as well from the playoffs for the first time in team history, both in MLS and in the USL, following their previous loss 3-1 to NYC FC. So both teams are basically playing for pride and nothing else. Well, I mean, I guess one thing to note is that if the Fire win, it guarantees they won't finish last in the East, as they'll be above Nashville on tiebreakers. So
exactly. Yeah. And
Yeah.
I think that's, I mean, the other kind of honor points to go for. I had an article about this on Red 97 that you can look up after the Fire were eliminated. Currently, their 30 points would tie for the worst in team history in a 34-game season. Like, we're excluding the COVID-shortened 2020 year because, when you play 11 fewer, well, yeah, and when you play 11 fewer games, you're going to get fewer points. Like, that's like I forget who won the Supporters Shield that year, but I think that it was
Philadelphia.
It was, but like I forget their point total. I want to say it was like 40 something, which is like it was 47. So like
it was that season was also weird because they changed it to it didn't matter how much points you had, but how many points per game, because not everyone played an equal amount of games.
Yeah, that didn't affect anyone in the East, I think, but it did affect a bunch of teams in the West because they got hit by COVID more. And
I just remember there was also that weird MLS is Back tournament that Portland, I think, ended up winning.
Yes.
2020, weird season.
So yeah, so other than that, this would be the lowest point total in Fire history, tying with their worst Spoon year. They get a draw, then they are tied with the other Spoon year. If they get 3 points, that helps climb the rankings, and just in terms of like how the team has done historically. And I think that would mean something to some extent, because like a lot of seasons, 30 points would still be fighting for the Spoon. It just is that San Jose decided to speed run it. Mm-hmm. And so
speed run the Spoon.
It's not like a run. It's like you jump into an abyss. It's like speed jumping into an abyss and you keep on falling and then die. Yeah.
It's the bottomless pit from Gravity Falls. If anyone,
those God, that reference. I'll be honest, off topic. The fall of San Jose just needs to be an MLS case study alongside the Fire.
Needs to be a documentary, kind of like what's that one show that did they do for NFL teams that do really badly that they recently did one. What is it called? Hard Knocks, I think. Pretty sure. I literally watched it when they made it for the Bears. But yeah, they need to make it like a docu-series around San Jose. They could do like an all or nothing. Just remove the all.
Yeah. Both teams have not won a playoff game since, well, I guess 2011 it was the first year that neither team won a playoff game, because I think San Jose won their most recent one in 2010. So it's been a while. Hopefully that will be changing for the Fire. The
San Jose last one in 2012.
Huh.
Technically.
Oh yeah, because they got the play-in game. Yeah.
Well, no, because they were MLS. They were the Supporter Shield winners, and they beat the Galaxy in their first game, and then lost their second game.
Wow.
Oh yeah, that's right. I can't believe I forgot they won the Supporter Shield that recently. I don't know.
And you want to know the worst part is Frank Yallop won that trophy.
And that was a big part, I think, of what made him such an attractive looking coach for the Fire.
Yes, my dream coach, the man that falls asleep.
Well, it won't be an issue. I think that's the other side note, talking about the Nashville game just for another second, is BJ Callahan was the interim USMNT manager that I think got meme points for winning some games in between the Berhalter hires from the time that Berhalter's first contract expired to the time that he was brought back. And So this will be the last game that the Fire can play against Nashville before it becomes a like ex-USMNT coach grudge match sort of match.
I look forward to that.
Seems like fun.
Well, here's the thing though, like when you like that basically means the Fire can never lose to Nashville again without shame after this season because it's kind of embarrassing to lose to the guy with the interim title, right?
Okay.
Did they ever have shame when they lost? They didn't have shame when they lost before.
I think one of the issues.
To be fair, the Nashville losses have always been pretty shameful. Let's be honest.
And I think one of the issues has been that they didn't internalize that shame enough, or that people were too powerless to do anything about it. So
I always feel like we have such bad luck. I don't know. Nashville for some reason just.
Nashville, I mean, look, they're a different team than they were before. And I think that that's sort of like the take-home point from this is that they were a good sort of like smash and grab counter team, and Hani Mukhtar was elite before this season. He has not been elite this season. It's a winnable game for the Fire.
Well, I mean, not being elite this season, but still having 8 goals and 10 assists is still fairly good.
But he's the guy they've got that can do that, right?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
So like, and like, yeah, you can say that he's not far behind Hugo Kuipers in the way that we've spoken about Kuipers being so radically different. Then even though the numbers are similar, but it comes down to like he's been their producer. Like other big signings that Nashville has made have not really panned out offensively. They lost Dax McCarty. They lost a lot. I don't think they realized what he did in terms of stabilizing the game with his play in the midfield. And like Hani Mukhtar, like his full seasons in MLS were like 16 goals, 23 goals when he, and 15 goals. And now, I mean, unless you drop 7 on the Fire, he's going to be short of that. So, and they haven't had other options, and they've, had more defensive miscues and stuff like that on the other side. So they've been playing better under BJ Callahan. They just haven't been getting the results. I think, it's a winnable game for the Fire. It's at home. Like we know what happened when they went to Nashville. Like that was a game that I think, the Fire didn't win it. But it wasn't like they had a fastest hat trick in league history dropped on them. Like
true.
So again, this is a game the Fire can win, and that would be I think a good closing chapter on Frank Klopas's tenure as head coach, as the full-time head coach, and potentially depending on what happens in the match, there's players that could show signs of what the team is going to be in the future. Now, like there's some questions. Like I think Justin Reynolds looked pretty good when he's had first team minutes. Obviously, he also looked pretty good in the decision day matchup against the Union, playing for the Fire 2, or against the Union 2, I guess, playing for the Fire 2. Like he did a good job. I think like he faced off against Kevin Sullivan sometimes. He looked good there. So like, do you play Justin Reynolds against Nashville because he's part of the future for the Fire? Do you save him for the Fire 2's playoff game the next day where they have a real potential to advance and maybe make a run? Orlando's a tough team, and they could really use a defender of Justin Reynolds' quality and someone that has I don't know, those are questions. And I don't know how much of that's going in Frank Klopas' thinking. It's something that I'll bring up during the press conference when we talk pregame, but I don't see realistically it. He probably will just say he's in, he's focusing on the game in Nashville to win the game in Nashville and then not anything else.
Yeah. I mean, for this last game, I'm just hoping to be surrounded by people that I have fun with at games and just to see one more, game of soccer at Soldier Field. One more game at Soldier Field. I don't know. I've been trying to make it a goal to go to a Bears game, but every time I just find myself looking at a date and then being like, oh, no, that conflicts. Or, oh, no, that's way too expensive. So, yeah.
I mean, the fact that you actually work on Sundays frequently does sort of limit your chances.
It does. Well, I mean, not only does it limit my chances, but also having a kids choir that that performs once a month that happens to fall on some of the days where the Bears play at home also doesn't help. So like, yeah. So I was thinking about going to their next home game, which is against the Patriots, but then I was like, no, I can't because I'm needed. I can't call off that day. So maybe the game afterwards against the Vikings, but then that's a divisional game, might be more expensive. Also, I noticed that the tickets are getting more expensive because of the fact that the Bears are good. And usually when teams are good, the tickets go up. Everyone wants to go see them. So maybe next year. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I mean, hey, weather's getting colder.
You really want to see Simone Biles' husband throw a football around?
I mean, he doesn't do the throwing, but
fair point. But
no, but yeah. No. Like I said, the weather's getting colder. It's time to throw on the Blackhawks sweater and maybe go to a few Blackhawks games as well. That's one of my favorite things to do in the off season. Back to the Fire.
Back to the Fire. So one other thing, it's the fan appreciation night. It looks like the team has done some things to maximize attendance for this match.
Mm-hmm.
It's a game that people that bought tickets for the game against Miami when Messi didn't play, if they had bought them before a certain time or something like that, I believe that they get free tickets to this match.
I'm also pretty sure that there people who renewed or got like new season tickets got free tickets to this game. So,
and the Fire's average attendance right now, they've already smashed their all-time attendance record in terms of total number of people through the gates. If they get 1,376 people to show up, for the first time in team history, they will be over 20,000 people in average attendance. I will say that that's doable.
I mean, that's considering what the product has been for during this Soldier Field era. We could definitely increase those numbers.
Yeah, but so right now they're averaging 21,164. Basically, whatever happens with this, unless it's abnormally huge or abnormally small, it's going to be in the 21,000 range, somewhere in there. Mm-hmm. But that would mark the first time in team history that has been above 20,000. Last year was the team record, 18,170. Before that, the team record was actually set in 1998. So,
wow,
commercial side is going up. And I think just having more people there, like you talked about the crowd and stuff like that, mm-hmm. I think is something that hopefully with Berhalter coming in, it seems like he's the one doing the like the fire starter,
sound the alarm
thing. Yeah. It seems like that, like the future, I think, is looking up for this team.
I would agree. I would 100% agree that we have someone at the helm that definitely knows what they're doing or should know what they're doing based on track record. And we have on the commercial side a team that's doing fairly well on the academy and like the B team. You have teams, that's going well. Like for the past, I would go ahead and say past 5 years, the Fire have been silently building their reputation and credibility on all different fronts except the on-field. Like it's like they're saving the on-field stuff for the very last moment. And I feel like this moment being either next season or the next few seasons, like next 2 seasons, it's going to be that culmination of that product essentially. Like
I don't think that was ever the plan. But that's the way that it worked out.
That's the way the cookie. Well, I don't want to say cookie crumbled, but that's the way the cookie's being baked, I guess, in this situation.
Alan, are you basically saying that Greg Berhalter is the Fire's version of Avengers Endgame?
I'm not saying that he's going to be. I'm not saying he's going to be the man that's going to put on the Infinity Gauntlet and say I am Iron Man, but I'm saying he could be that. A part of the last few pieces of the puzzle, like when you're finishing that, because when you build your puzzle, you go from all the outside, and then you sort of build in. He's those last few pieces of the puzzle in the middle, essentially. And the outside bits are like the commercial bits or like the performance center or the academy and all those stuff. Like everything all around is being built and have been being built well in the past few years. Now we're just slowly moving in towards the center for the on field and the actual winning part. So hopefully Greg Berhalter is the one that has putting together the last pieces. Anyway, that's enough of Allen metaphors.
Yeah, and I think that the other thing just to recognize is that this is, never say never, because I think that we thought we saw Frank Klopas' last game as head coach, full time decade ago. And obviously he came back, but like likely his last game as head coach of the Chicago Fire. And I think you can look at the performance, and I think that that's fair. But like the man would run through a brick wall. He would jump through a burning hoop to run into a brick wall for this team.
He would catch a grenade for this team.
Yes, he would do all those things and more. And
he would do anything Bruno Mars would do for you, but for the team.
Okay, we're back to Allen's metaphors, guys.
And just speaking metaphors, I guess.
So, I think that that's something to recognize. And
Yes.
even if the results haven't been there, I think that the passion, at least on his part, has completely been there. And, unfortunately, I will not be able to be at the game. But, I do regret that in some ways. I wish that I could be there just for that, because of who he is as a human being and what he's done for those around him.
Yeah, no, definitely this season could have been a lot worse. Not even if we lost more games, but we had a manager / interim manager that was like, didn't care, essentially. That like, we just know that whatever happens, that Frank does care, and he's actually putting in a lot of effort towards coaching the side and trying to get through, even though he knows he's not the best fit. That definitely makes this season, how do I say, more
understandable.
That's a better word. I was thinking like more easier to chew, I guess. Weird metaphors and references that Alan speaks in, but yes. So yeah, I'm pretty sure that's all we have. Of course, we're gonna highlight the fact that we did pass through our 100th episode. So if you haven't listened to that, I recommend go ahead giving that a listen to, because we do, well, first of all, pretty much almost the whole gang is there, including John, including Matt, Alex.
Matt, who is not a myth.
Matt, who is not a myth. He indeed exists.
He did return from Constantinople.
Yes, for a bit, and now he's back. And then also our quickfire episode about Greg Berhalter, when our immediate reactions when we heard the news, when the news dropped about him becoming the head coach as well as director of football. So if you haven't gave those episodes a listen, go ahead and give those episodes a listen. Like we mentioned, more articles about Berhalter and just anything about Chicago soccer is on meninred97.com. And like mentioned, we got one more game this Saturday. You also have the Fire 2 game on Sunday at 2 p.m. Central. And then in a few weeks, we'll also have the Red Stars in the NWSL playoffs as well. So a bit more Chicago soccer to witness and to feature before the year's end, before the snow starts to fall and we have to put on our jackets, and Alan will be going to the United Center for Blackhawks games and talking.
Hopefully that's for good.
I'm talking about Connor Bedard all day.
I was about to say that we went through this whole episode. You mentioned the Blackhawks multiple times and not Bedard, and then you just ruined it. So I guess
I feel like, well, I mean, can I just say I've had a pretty good track record of not mentioning him for several episodes.
Mentioning who
this season? That one player who wears 98
Darn it,
for
man.
the Hawks.
Okay. We need to do a thing next season where every time you mention Bedard, you have to pay us $1 or something.
No.
Yes,
No.
I like this plan.
Well, I give every time I say his name, I have to play $1 to, but that means I have to pay $2. Like what?
We'll come up with
we'll
a
make
charity,
it 50 cents.
or $1 to the Fire for Food drive.
You know what? I like that better than just giving you two money. We can do that.
Thanks.
Okay, guys. All right, we've lost the plot here.
We lost the plot. No, it's okay.
We have a plot.
No,
Yeah, just
that's
like
the problem. All right, listeners.
Yeah.
Thank you for bearing with us.
I think that this is what makes because there's a lot of podcasts out there about soccer, about the Fire that you're also listening to, but I think this is what makes us special. We definitely have we have some comedic relief.
Reluctant bets are what make this podcast special.
Amen, I say to that. So, do you guys have any last final words of wisdom for our audience?
Whatever you do not run out in the middle of a Category 3 hurricane right into the eye.
Makes sense.
I've got follow-up questions to that, DJ, but we can handle those offline, so nothing else from me.
All right. I, as always, have been Alan the Pole with the Gold, joined by my lovely jubbly co-hosts, Tim and DJ. One last Fire game. Hopefully not one last Fire 2 game. Come on, you men in red.